A simple nurse boards Billionaire's jet by mistake. Now she's on a romantic trip to Paris with the kind CEO. Welcome, my beautiful family. It's been a while since I shared such a story with you. I'm so excited to share a truly captivating story with you today. Get ready to be swept off your feet by a tale of unexpected encounters and blossoming love. As you listen, I want you to think about this. Have you ever had a moment where a simple mistake led to something extraordinary in your life? Share your stories in the comments below. Lily clutched her worn tote bag, boarding the sleek jet with a sigh of relief, oblivious that her life and her destination was about to take an unimaginable, luxurious detour with a man whose world was light years from her own. Please stay to the end of this story, and I bet you are going to love it. Now, without further ado, let's dive into our story. Lily, a name as delicate as the woman herself, navigated the bustling airport with the practiced efficiency of someone who spent her days taming chaos. Her scrubs were neatly folded in her well-worn tote, a silent testament to 12-hour shifts spent patching up scraped knees and calming anxious hearts in the city's busiest pediatric ward. Her upcoming trip to visit her ailing aunt in another state was a much-needed reprieve, a chance to breathe away from the sterile scent of antiseptics and the persistent hum of hospital monitors. As she finally found her gate, she felt a wave of exhaustion, her shoulders slumping with the weight of her demanding life. She saw a jet, sleek and impossibly elegant, with a gate number that matched her boarding pass. Finally, she thought, a small, tired smile gracing her lips. Meanwhile, a world away, in a soundproofed office that overlooked the city skyline, Joshua Thorne finalized a multi-million-dollar deal with the cool, effortless grace of a man born to command. His name was synonymous with innovation, his company a titan in sustainable technology. Yet beneath the veneer of sharp suits and decisive actions lay a quiet intensity, a longing for something beyond the relentless pursuit of profit. His trip to Paris was ostensibly for a philanthropic summit, but a part of him hoped for an escape from the polished, transactional world he inhabited. He longed for genuine connection, for a moment where his wealth didn't precede him. He stood, stretching the stiffness from his broad shoulders, a faint frown touching his lips. He wished for an adventure that wasn't meticulously planned, a journey that defied expectation. Lily settled into the plush leather seat, pulling out her well-thumbed paperback. The interior was unlike any commercial plane she'd ever seen. No cramped rows, no screaming toddlers, just an expanse of muted luxury. She thought perhaps she'd been upgraded, a rare stroke of luck. A polite attendant offered her champagne, which she politely declined, opting for sparkling water. Just as the aircraft began its smooth ascent, a tall figure emerged from a private compartment at the front of the cabin. His eyes, a startling shade of intelligent blue, met hers across the opulent space. Joshua Thorne. The face was instantly recognizable from magazine covers and financial news, a stark contrast to her own humble existence. Lily's breath hitched. "Excuse me?" she began, her voice a whisper. Is this flight to Omaha?" Joshua's brow furrowed, a flicker of surprise, and then a slow, disarming smile spreading across his face. "No," he said, his voice a rich baritone. "This is my private jet, and we're headed for Paris." The words hung in the air, surreal and impossible. Lily felt a lurch, not just from the plane, but deep in her stomach. A mistake, a monumental, life-altering mistake. Her face paled, the reality crashing down on her. The attendant quickly intervened, confirming Lily's boarding pass was for a commercial flight, but the gate had been inexplicably the same. Joshua, observing the panic rising in her eyes, held up a hand. "There seems to be a mix-up," he said, his gaze surprisingly gentle. "But we're already in the air, nurse." He paused, waiting for her to fill in the blank. "Lily," she managed, her voice barely audible. "Lily," he repeated, the name sounding foreign, yet pleasant on his tongue. "Lily, how would you like to come to Paris?" The world tilted on its axis. The absurdity of the situation hit Lily with the force of a tidal wave. Paris? With him? Her mind raced, cataloging 100 reasons why this was impossible, inappropriate, utterly insane. No, no, I stammered, shaking her head vigorously, her face flushed with mortification. I have to get to Omaha. My aunt needs me. I have work. Her hands tightened around the straps of her tote bag, her knuckles white. This wasn't her world, and she felt profoundly out of place, a misplaced cog in a magnificent, gleaming machine. Joshua watched her, a faint amusement playing at the corners of his lips, but beneath it, a flicker of something intrigued. He saw not a gold digger or a starstruck fan, but genuine distress, a raw honesty that was refreshing. "Lily," he said, his tone softening, "we're hours into the flight. The earliest I could arrange for you to be flown back to the States, let alone Omaha, would be from Paris. You'd lose more time trying to turn back now." He leaned forward slightly, his gaze earnest. "Consider it an unexpected adventure. My team can arrange for your aunt to be checked on and reschedule your commercial flight for when we return. There's nothing you can do right now but be here." His words, though logical, felt like a gentle push into an unknown abyss. Lily still hesitated, her internal alarms blaring, but a quiet, almost imperceptible curiosity began to fight with her innate caution. The thought of Paris, a place she'd only ever seen in movies, sparked a tiny, rebellious thrill she hadn't known she possessed. Despite Lily's protests, the reality of their shared confinement in the luxurious cabin became undeniable. With no immediate way to disembark, a strange truce settled between them. Joshua, sensing her discomfort, offered her a tablet with a selection of movies, then retreated to his private office, allowing her space. Yet, the vastness of the jet meant they were undeniably present in each other's orbits. Lily, after an hour of restless pacing and half-hearted attempts to read, found herself drawn to the large window, watching the clouds drift by like cotton whispers. Joshua eventually emerged, carrying 2 mugs of fragrant tea. He set one down on the small table beside her without a word and took the seat opposite. The silence stretched, not awkward, but filled with the soft hum of the engines and the unspoken acknowledgement of their peculiar situation. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he finally said, his voice quiet, his gaze fixed on the same endless horizon. Lily nodded, a small sigh escaping her lips. "I've never been anywhere like this," she admitted, her guard lowering just a fraction, "or seen anything quite like this view." He smiled, a genuine, unforced smile that softened the sharp lines of his face. "Most people haven't," he conceded. "It's easy to forget there's a world beyond boardrooms and balance sheets." He paused, then added, his voice tinged with a surprising wistfulness, "Or hospital wards, I imagine." Lily met his gaze, a flicker of understanding passing between them. In the quiet solitude of the sky, far above the world that defined them, their separate lives began to blur. As the hours drifted by, punctuated by the soft murmur of the jet's engines, the forced proximity began to chip away at their initial reservations. Over a surprisingly simple yet exquisite meal prepared by the onboard chef, the conversation shifted from polite pleasantries to deeper, more revealing topics. Lily, emboldened by Joshua's surprisingly down-to-earth demeanor, found herself speaking about her work with a quiet passion. "It's not just about treating illnesses," she explained, stirring her tea thoughtfully. "It's about the families, the fear in a parent's eyes, the resilience of a child. You see so much raw humanity." Joshua listened intently, a pensive look on his face. "I can imagine," he said softly. "My own work, for all its grand scale, sometimes feels detached. Numbers, projections, markets, it's a different kind of impact." He then shared a glimpse into his past, a story he rarely revealed. "My mother was a nurse," he confessed, his voice tinged with unexpected nostalgia. "Before she passed, she always believed in using resources to truly help people, not just accumulate wealth." He paused, a faraway look in his eyes. "That's why I started the Thorn Foundation, focused on sustainable healthcare solutions in underserved communities." Lily felt a jolt. His philanthropy wasn't just a tax write-off, it was a deeply personal mission. A bridge, invisible and strong, began to form between their vastly different worlds. The mystery of the aloof billionaire dissolved, replaced by a man driven by a profound yet often private sense of purpose. The revelation of Joshua's mother and his foundation created an immediate, profound shift in their dynamic. The air in the cabin, once thick with polite distance, now hummed with a nascent warmth. Lily, seeing beyond the billionaire facade, began to open up further. She spoke of the challenges of healthcare, the systemic inequalities, and her dreams of one day volunteering abroad. Joshua, in turn, found himself sharing the pressures of leading a global corporation, the loneliness at the top, and the constant battle to ensure his innovations genuinely benefited humanity. One evening, as the jet soared over the twinkling lights of a distant city, they found themselves laughing easily over a shared memory. A particularly embarrassing childhood incident involving a school play for Lily and a botched science fair experiment for Joshua. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated normalcy, stripping away the titles and expectations. "You know," Lily said, a genuine smile lighting up her face, "I always imagined people like you lived in a completely different universe." Joshua chuckled, his blue eyes crinkling at the corners. "And I always imagined people like you were too busy saving lives to notice the universe outside the hospital walls." The banter was light, yet beneath it a fragile but real bond was taking root. A sense of peace settled between them, a quiet understanding that felt both unexpected and profoundly right. For the first time, in the most unlikely of circumstances, healing felt possible, not just for the patients Lily tended, but for the quiet loneliness that had subtly shadowed both their lives. Paris unfolded beneath them, a city of light and dreams. Joshua, true to his word, had arranged for Lily's aunt to be cared for and her flight rescheduled. For 2 glorious days, they explored the charming cobblestone streets, dined at quaint cafes, and shared hushed conversations by the Seine. The magic of Paris seemed to amplify the growing connection between them. One evening, under the glittering spectacle of the Eiffel Tower, Joshua took Lily's hand. "Lily," he began, his voice soft but earnest, This has been unlike anything I've ever experienced." His gaze was intense, full of a vulnerability that both thrilled and terrified her. Lily's heart pounded, a dizzying mix of hope and fear. Just as she was about to respond, a notification pinged on Joshua's phone. He glanced at it, and his face, moments before filled with tender emotion, hardened. "I'm sorry, Lily," he said, pulling his hand away abruptly. "There's a crisis with the foundation. A major investor has pulled out of our sustainable healthcare project in Ghana. It's critical." The sudden shift was jarring. Lily felt a cold dread creep in. "But what does that mean?" she asked, her voice small. Joshua ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his face. "It means everything is on the line. The whole project could collapse. I need to get back immediately. To London, then to New York." He stood up, the urgency of his world eclipsing their shared moment. "I'll arrange for a private flight back for you as well, of course." The implicit message hung heavy in the air. Our time is over. Lily felt a sharp, aching pain. In an instant, their fragile bubble of romance had burst, replaced by the stark reality of their vastly different lives. "Of course," she echoed, the word tasting like ash. "The real world calls." She looked at him, not with anger, but with a profound sense of hurt and disappointment. "I understand, Joshua. Your world is much bigger than mine, and I was just a delightful distraction." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the depth of her emotional wound. The bond, so carefully forged, seemed to shatter under the weight of his responsibilities, leaving her feeling foolish, used, and utterly alone amidst the romantic glow of Paris. Back in her modest apartment, the memory of Paris felt like a dream. Lily moved through her shifts at the hospital with a quiet numbness, the vibrant colors of the city replaced by the sterile whites and blues of her ward. Every corner of her mind replayed Joshua's abrupt departure, the way his focus had snapped away from her, consumed by his crisis. A delightful distraction, she thought, the words a bitter echo. She told herself she was foolish to have believed in such a fairy tale, to have allowed herself to dream beyond her quiet, predictable life. He was a billionaire, she was a nurse. Their worlds simply weren't meant to intertwine beyond a fleeting, accidental encounter. Pride warred with a deep, aching longing in her heart. She found herself scrolling through news articles about the Thorn Foundation, desperately searching for updates on the Ghana project, a project that had once ignited such shared passion between them.
Meanwhile, Joshua was a whirlwind of damage control. Investor calls, emergency meetings, sleepless nights spent strategizing to save the crucial initiative. Yet, amidst the relentless pressure, Lily's face kept flashing in his mind. Her genuine warmth, her insightful questions, the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed. He'd handled the crisis with the precision of a seasoned CEO, but he'd handled her badly. He knew it. His abruptness had been driven by panic and responsibility, but it had come at a cost. He remembered her face under the Eiffel Tower, the hope, then the hurt. A delightful distraction. Her words, sharp and accurate, cut through the noise of his corporate world. He realized with a startling clarity that she had been anything but a distraction. She had been a moment of authentic connection, a glimpse into a life he craved. The choice weighed heavily on him: succumb to the demands of his empire and let her go, or acknowledge the profound, unexpected impact she'd had. One evening, as the Ghana project finally stabilized, a quiet determination settled over him. He picked up his phone, his thumb hovering over a number he hadn't thought he'd use again. Days later, Lily walked out of the hospital, the city lights reflecting in the weary puddles from a recent rain. The air was cool and crisp, but she felt only a persistent ache in her chest. She was halfway to the bus stop when a sleek black car pulled silently to the curb beside her. The window glided down, revealing Joshua. His expression was serious, a mixture of fatigue and a deep, uncharacteristic vulnerability. "Lily," he said, his voice softer than she remembered, devoid of the corporate urgency that had shattered their Parisian dream. He stepped out of the car, closing the door quietly behind him. I know I left things terribly. I let my world overshadow what was happening between us, and I regret it." He extended his hand, not a grand gesture, but a simple, open offering. In his palm lay a small, elegantly wrapped package. Lily hesitated, her heart a fragile bird fluttering in her ribs. Was this another apology that would end in goodbye? "I almost lost the Ghana project," he continued, his gaze unwavering, "but we pulled through. And in the midst of it all, I realized something important. You weren't a distraction, Lily. You were clarity." He opened the package, revealing a delicate silver charm, a tiny Eiffel Tower. "I wanted to give you this in Paris," he explained, "as a reminder of something truly special." Lily looked from the charm to his eyes, searching for sincerity, for permanence. What she saw was a man stripped of his usual impenetrable composure, a man who had faced his own reckoning. "Joshua," she began, her voice barely a whisper, "your world is still vast. Mine is still here." He reached out, gently taking her hand, his thumb tracing the lines on her palm. "And what if my world needs yours in it?" he asked, his gaze earnest. "What if I don't want to navigate it without you?" He paused, then took a breath. "The Ghana project needs a lead nurse, someone with passion, with real understanding of community health, someone like you." He wasn't offering her a job as his employee. He was offering a partnership, a shared purpose. A slow, incredulous smile bloomed on Lily's face, chasing away the weariness. It wasn't just about romance. It was about two souls finding their true north together. "You mean a partner?" she asked, the word tasting sweet on her tongue. Joshua's smile then was radiant, full of relief and hope. "More than that," he said, stepping closer. "I mean a future. And maybe, just maybe, another trip to Paris, with no accidental boarding passes involved." Lily laughed, a bright, joyous sound that echoed through the quiet street. She tightened her grip on his hand. The small Eiffel Tower charm nestled safely in her palm. The accidental boarding had led her not just to Paris, but to an unexpected love, a shared purpose, and a future brighter than any she could have ever imagined. From a simple mistake, a profound connection had blossomed, proving that sometimes the greatest journeys begin with the most unlikely detours. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey. This story truly shows how life can surprise us in the most beautiful ways. What was your favorite moment in Lily and Joshua's story? And what do you think their future adventures together will look like? Let me know your thoughts and predictions in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more amazing stories. Until next time, take care.